The BBC have revealed the host of Eurovision 2023 in Liverpool. Hello, Oliver.
Hi.
Hello, Lucy.
Hi, love.
Shall we talk about it?
Let's do this.
do this.
Amazing. Now, you have probably already read, but the host for the grand final of the Eurovision Song Contest will be Graham Norton, Alesha Dixon, Hannah Waddingham, and Julia Sanina of the Hard Kiss. You guys, let's just start with our general impression, our first impression, Lucy.
I mean, it's a tale of two halves. As soon as I saw Hannah Waddingham, I had a musical theatre geek moment, and I also love Ted Lasso, which she is in, like fellow Wiwiblogger Tom Hendrick. But yeah, so like I had like a full on when I saw it was Hannah Waddingham, because she is incredible, and like I'm seeing those people like, who, honey, she is an Emmy winner. She is a 3-time Laurence Olivier Award nominee. She is spectacular. Like, I will not see any Hannah Waddingham shade. She is the best and so talented, and she's very much in the Peter Amid vein, like comedian and also an insanely like good singer, and like she is perfect for this. Great to see Julia on it. Obviously, we did expect a Ukrainian presenter. I'm surprised it's not Timur, although we'll probably talk about him shortly, I'm sure. But it's really great to see her there. I mean, the Hard Kiss have been a fan like wish list item for so long. It's actually quite cool they're coming in a totally different capacity than we expected, with Julia kind of presenting. Graham Norton, I mean, it was predictable, but yeah, I find I'm not super into his commentary these days, but you know, it was to be expected. It's probably the obvious thing that was gonna happen. Alesha Dixon, I'm shocked. I mean, she's great. She's very, very charismatic, and she's really friendly and warm. So I think she's going to be fantastic. But I'm very surprised. Basically, she is contracted to ITV, which is BBC's main rival. So I'm surprised she's doing Eurovision. But yeah, she's good. She's probably the most surprising of them all to me. But yeah, that's my take for now.
Well, damn, she downloaded. I was looking for a curt response, but our girl spoke and she slayed. Oliver, what about you?
Very similar vibes on the Hannah Waddingham front. I'm very excited to see her. I think my main takeaway, more so than any individual thoughts on any of the presenters, is that Alesha Dixon, Hannah Waddingham, and Julia from Hard Kiss, they can all sing, they can all perform. And as we've seen in the years as they have gone by, the host has to be multifaceted. It's not just a presenting gig anymore. And yeah, it's a bit of a strange choice, I guess, when you first think, oh, TV host, maestro, MC, you think of the Graham Norton types, you think of Terry Wogan or Rika Johnson. But you know, you've got somebody here in Hannah Waddingham who is a musical theatre professional, who is, you know, has tons of talent on the stage, has the stamina to do that kind of thing. Alesha Dixon as well. Julia, I'll admit, I'm not super familiar with, although I do know the Hard Kiss, obviously. But you know, they've got the chops to put on part of the show, give us some kind of performance, which I think we can be really excited about. And yeah, I think that Graham Norton had to be there in a way. You know, he's kind of an auxiliary role, I suppose, is a way of looking at it, with him just coming in for the final rather than the semis. And also, that's the first time that I think that's happened in Eurovision history, where we've had somebody different for the semis, or, you know, somebody new come in, and it's this whole team of hosts that rotates a little bit. So it'll be very interesting to see. Yeah, excited, pleased, surprised, excited to see how they're going to pull it off.
So Russia, Eurovision 2009, they also had a similar kind of swap in, swap out, involving the Russian model Natalia Vodanova. She was absolutely stunning. But look, on these hosts, Hannah Waddingham, I love that they chose her, mostly because she's the shame nun who walked behind Cersei Lannister when she was marched naked through King's Landing ringing that bell, you may recall. It is so iconic. So I bet you there will be a shame gag at some point in the show where she's got a bell and she's saying shame, shame, shame. Alesha Dixon is gorgeous. Like, she's so stunning. I actually watched a really serious documentary she did about, it was called Please Don't Hit My Mom, about domestic violence way back in 2010. She's a very rich person in that she has rich different experience, like a vast experience in a whole number of realms, from TV presenting to singing, Britain's Got Talent, right? So she can do lots of different things. She has a personal story. She's part Jamaican. You know, I feel like she's a really good choice. There was some shade online. I was like, why y'all gotta hate? She had that hit. What was that hit about The Boy Does Nothing?
The Boy Does Nothing.
There you go.
And it's still used in adverts all the time today, like all the time.
So she has proven her worth. Julia, I think, is actually, or Yulia, forgive me, is actually a really good choice for Ukraine. Everyone thought it would be Timur. He's a bit more serious, whereas I think she's a bit looser, a bit more fun. And you can make different arguments for different people, but I think she actually will slot in nicely into the lineup. Because can you imagine in the grand final, Graham and Timur together? It's just such a mismatch personality-wise. So I think it makes sense to have him in the Eurovision commentator role, shooting out to him, getting his insights, and then having him on the opening ceremony carpet. I want to ask you guys this. The number 4, there are 4 hosts for the grand final. How do you feel about this? Me personally, I think it's too many. I loved it when it was 1, Petra Meta. I know it's hard to get that, but you feel a relationship with the person, right? When it's 2, you feel a relationship. 3, you start to forget who the third one is. 4, it's like, oh my God. For me, it's too much. Lucy.
Yeah, I mean, 2018, in my opinion, was one of the worst hosting, kind of the host choices, because it was far too many people and they split off 2 and 2. And then 2019 they did it again, didn't they? Although 2019 the selection of people was a little bit better, I would say, for the most part, but it's just far too much. Like in 2019 they should have just had Lucy IU and oh my gosh, I forgot his name,
Ozzy Azar.
Thank you. Those 2 would have been perfect. Bar Raffaelli and the other person who I definitely can't remember the name weren't needed.
Erez Tall, girl. Erez Tall.
I'm so sorry. In 2018, again, you could have cut 2 of the hosts. 4 is too many. It so depends, like, are 2 of them going to be more green room based? Like, how are they going to split it up? I am intrigued. I imagine Graham is going to be one of the lead kind of hosts because he is so synonymous with UK Eurovision, but like, it's too many. I've seen so many people being like, why is it 4 again? It's too much. It is too much.
Oliver, before I come to you, I want to read a comment on the Wiwibloggs, which may give you something to riff on. Wessel writes, wish they would stick with 1 or possibly 2 hosts like Petra Mede in Sweden. After all, the hosts don't have that much to do anymore. 4 is excessive and the extras add nothing. To which David replies, 2 is perfect, 3 is the max, 4 is a mess.
I would disagree with the point of hosts not having to do much anymore, because I think that's kind of what I was trying to get at when we talk about this selection of hosts, is that they are kind of required to do the whole performance. There's a showmanship. It's more than just ringing them up and saying, Luxembourg jury, can I have your points, as a la Katie Boyle in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Yeah, I do agree that 4 is a little bit too many just for my own viewing needs. I remember that in 2010 when we hosted in Norway and there were 3 hosts, and that was a big deal because all of a sudden you'd gone from it always being 2 hosts to 3 and everybody was freaking out. A lot of people who are watching this probably won't remember that, but it was, you know, that went quite well, and they did it in Germany and it went quite well once again. But 4 to me is difficult just to focus on. I think that you don't get to know the people's humour. However, I am looking at this as a UK fan as well and thinking, yeah, I'm excited to see Hannah Waddingham. Yes, I'm excited to see Alesha Dixon. Yes, I'm excited to see Julia from Hardkiss. And I think that I'm excited to see how Graham Norton does in the kind of maestro MC role. So maybe there's a bit of personal attachment and cultural attachment to those hosts, and they want to show off as much as possible, hence giving it to 4. Slightly disappointed though, if you are going to give it to 4 people, I would have liked to see a bit more diverse representation, because the 2 Brits, Alesha and Hannah, while they're great, they're both Southern. Graham is Irish, Julia's from Ukraine, we're in Liverpool, you know, give me someone from the north. Is that too much to ask? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, let's just point out that Liverpudlian presenter Sam Quek will front the opening ceremony live stream. However, this is an auxiliary role. This is not primetime TV. And I do find it strange that in this country, we talk about, you know, leveling up the North. We talk about, we want to represent all parts of the UK, and you've just nailed it on the head. There's no Liverpudlian representation in that main hosting lineup, which does seem like a shame. I was thinking, what's her name? Abby Clancy, runner-up Britain's Next Top Model Season 2. She's from your neck of the woods. She could do it, damn. Look, next thing I want to bring up. Graham Norton will be sharing commentary duties, you know, for the BBC audience with Mel from Great British Bake Off. I want to get your thoughts on this, because a lot of people are saying, what is the point in having 4 hosts, then having one of them have to run between the commentary booth when you could have just let somebody else do the commentary? Is it that Graham was afraid someone would do it and then take his gig? He previously said publicly that he was afraid if someone else did it, they might take his gig. Do we think that's the reason? I'm curious what you think, Lucy.
Oh boy, I have opinions on this bit. Firstly, I think Rylan should take his gig. Secondly, Mel Giedroyc did semi-final commentary in 2015 and 2016, maybe 2017 as well. She wasn't particularly favourably liked by Eurovision fans because she would talk over songs and say things like, "Hi, Eurovision gang," over and over again. She is so wonderful. She is one of the best assets this country has. But for this one job specifically, it wasn't very well received. So I am very perplexed why she's come back, because she was replaced with Rylan, who has been a huge success. I don't understand why on earth Rylan is not doing commentary, like full stop, on the final. Like I say, this isn't even shade to Mel. I love Mel. I'm a huge Mel Giedroyc fan, but just not for this specifically. And I'm genuinely devastated, like a lot of people, that it's not Rylan, because I mean, I know people throw shade at Scott Mills. I love Scott Mills. I'm a huge Scott Mills fan. I think him and Rylan on semi-final duty is so much more entertaining than Graham's commentary on the final. So, I mean, firstly, by the way, with Graham like coming in and doing bits and pieces, I think they're doing it to be nostalgic. Terry Wogan did that in 1998, sorry, in Birmingham. So I think they want to do that again because it's nostalgia, and they'll make references to Terry Wogan doing it and whatever. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. But I just don't understand why Scott and Rylan haven't got the final gig, because Scott has worked on this gig for over 10 years in the semi-finals, and whether people like it or not, he's good at it. Like they're not insulting to the artist. They have humour without being insulting. Like Rylan will trip up over pronunciations, and he's got famous teeth because he got them done, and he'll take the mick out of himself trying to pronounce names like, honestly, it's just my teeth. And you know, and like he'll just make jokes kind of that aren't attacking the artist, which commentators have been known to do at times. So I feel like it would have been really nice to have that kind of warmth in the final instead of, I mean, Mel is like the very definition of friendliness. So I don't think she's going to be rude. I think she's going to be really good at that. But I just hope she doesn't talk over the songs again, because I was like screaming at my TV when she was doing it in 2015. So fingers crossed it's different than before. But I just think it's a really absurd choice given the history.
All right, Oliver, Graham, Mel sharing commentary.
Contradictory, but I kind of like it. I really like Mel Giedroyc. I get why people kind of within the Eurovision sphere, you know, maybe don't enjoy her commentary as much, but I think she is quintessentially British. She's that quintessential kind of awkward mom humor. I've got a soft spot for that. You know, there's a reason she's so successful at those kinds of gigs, presenting various different things. I'll be interested to see how it goes down. I think logistically, it does make sense to have somebody else in that commentary box. And, you know, I'm sure there will have been screen tests or auditions per se as to who this could have been. And yeah, it is somewhat shocking to me that it isn't Rylan, but I do think that Mel will do a decent job, and I'm happy that she is involved. I'm happy that there are a lot of people involved, because I think there was so many names floating around out there that everybody wanted to see. You know, Rylan, Mel was one of them. Mel is somebody that a lot of people did mention, aside from those who maybe enjoy her commentary in 2015, Lucy. But yeah, I will say, where is AJ?
Yeah,
Thank
you.
you.
That's a big question. Rylan and AJ were fantastic at the handover ceremony. It seemed when AJ gave the 12 points from the UK last year that they were very much gearing her up to be the voice of the North. And I think that her in the commentary booth, you know, she could have done really well as well. She could have done great in any role. Granted, she's, you know, not a musical theatre professional like Hannah is, or, you know, like Alesha has experience in, but she could have had a bit more of a focal role here. So bringing in somebody who's not being on the radar, it's definitely a unexpected choice, but I'm not angry at it.
Okay, a few things. First, let's shout out to AJ Odudu. This is on the Wiwibloggs website. Some comments. Aich writes, don't like Alesha, never heard of this Julia character, happily surprised about Hannah, Graham too obvious, I cannot believe AJ Odudu isn't hosting. Another comment, this is from Kyla. Yes, no, Kala, forgive me. I was so hoping AJ, Rylan, Mel, and Timur would have been the host. They would have been hilarious and fun to watch. And Bob says it should have been Rylan and AJ, Odudu, and Timur Miroshnychenko and Julia, giving us 2 UK and 2 Ukrainian. All right, on the Graham Norton point, I think I already said this. I really wish it was just one person doing it in the commentary booth. It's again about the relationship. It's not like they're in there that long or say that much over the course of the show. And so cutting them in half, diluting them, it just feels weird to me. This is a comment from, I believe, a Polish fan. This was on Twitter. Max says, isn't Graham Norton known for dragging most of the entries when commenting on ESC? Like, okay. And this is interesting. So this person obviously doesn't live in the UK. Graham is known for, you know, being cheeky, and it's not meant to be hateful. However, if you don't know the context, it does come off as hateful. And so it's interesting that for the international broadcast, to this person anyway, that he's chosen. What do you guys make of that? Is it a cultural thing, whereas we here in the UK accept that Graham is just being cheeky? Do you think it will be problematic in the show? Presumably producers will tone down anything in the actual international broadcast. Lucy.
Well, it's difficult because in the commentary, sorry, I do agree. I think he is really quite offensive about some of the acts. I remember there was a comment about Giedroyc, which I know Giedroyc's entry was Marmite, which I've just realised is a very British reference, but basically you either love it or hate it. And Graham was like, this is like Marmite if everybody hated Marmite. And I'm like, that's really mean. You just said, like, you're going to hate this song. I thought that was a bit much. There's a few other examples that make me go, oh, when I watch it, and I'm just embarrassed that is the commentary track on our countries. I mean, yes, he's probably the most famous commentator, right? And he's gotten a lot softer than he used to be. He went through a period of being really brutal. He's gotten a lot better, but every now and then you are just like, Jesus, like at some of the things that are said.
I gotta say, there's one joke he said when he called Hurricane Destiny's Child's aunties. I nearly died. Sorry.
Oh my God, that's good. But no, I suppose this is the benefit of having Mel, is it will be a lot more toned down and it is gonna be a lot friendlier. And I think maybe there is a need for that. Like, there is a need for that because UK are getting a reputation for it. And we used to have that reputation with Terry Wogan, and it got better for a while. It was getting bad again. I think, I don't know what's happened, but Graham did get a lot softer in 2021 and 2022. It started to get a lot better. I do think, yeah, maybe that's a bit harsh. AJ Adudu would have ticked so many wonderful boxes in the sense that we would have been northern representation. Because, oh my God, did you see Joker Rout's story doing impressions of her accent? It was wonderful. So, you know, even the acts were loving AJ. It was going on their socials. I think a lot of people really wanted AJ Adudu. And I think it's such a shame that she's not involved because she was so well received in 2022. It's not like they didn't have a heads up that everyone loved her. Even when she gave points, like last year, it was so beloved. And then when it comes through this year, everyone was like, well, it's going to be AJ Adudu, right? And then the semi-final allocation, and then it's come through and she's not there. It's a shame.
I think there is almost a academic study to be had on how Terry Wogan and then Graham Norton's comments kind of feed into the UK perception of Eurovision for the past however many years, where the UK has seen Eurovision as a joke, or oh, all the countries vote for each other. You know those narratives that we, of course, amongst us know are just ridiculous. We don't accept them. I have wondered very often how much those comments, whether they be sly little digs, whether we see them as serious and offensive, or we see them as just British humour and banter, does that feed into something a little bit more sinister? I don't know. I certainly know that towards the end of Terry Wogan's career, he got much more bitter, and he did make a comment about Cerebro, who represented Russia in 2007, saying that something about convent-educated girls and Russian bears, mustaches, some really
and
stuff.
I must add this. He said, in my day, all of the women looked like Khrushchev's mother with mustaches.
That was it. That's the quote. And he also said, I remember a 2008 contest, the first entry to perform was Romania, and the first comment that he said as soon as the Romanian act had finished was, "Oh, that'll do very well. The Romanians have spread all across Europe." And nowadays you could not say that. You shouldn't have said it back then. And I'm very glad that Graham does not take that same narrative, because that is xenophobic.
Absolutely.
And there is no room for that at Eurovision. I think that Graham has done quite well to, leave that part of it behind. And I think he's kind of had to find his own nuance in the role, away from some of the putrid things that Terry Wogan would spout. As you can tell, not the biggest Terry Wogan fan. But yeah, I think for the most part, his commentary is okay. And I can see the borderline offensive things, but it's really difficult to weigh up. There are some things that make me laugh out loud. He called Yonida Malici Albanian Kirsty Allsop, and I was just like, oh my God.
That's perfect.
She does look like Kirsty. She does look like Kirsty Allsop. He comes out with these one-liners sometimes that are, unbelievable. I think at the contest, obviously, he will tone it down. He's not going to be the person speaking to the acts in the green room. We know that for sure. Like, I'm certain that that's not going to be the case. Because if it was, I think we'll be like, oh God, is he going to read me? What's he going to say about me? He's not the artist interviewer role. You can see him in more of the MC role and in that commentary. And yeah, I hope that with Mel by his side, there is a bit more joy injected into it. And that's not to say, Graham clearly has a love of the contest. He does have a joy in it. I think it's just somewhat of a different perception to what we as fans have, and to the upwards trajectory that the UK is on now with its vision of Eurovision. Yeah.
I think he's incredible, but I do take your point. The commentary in the UK has always been problematic, and I think it's better now under him. He's progressed things. He's a great talent. Him and Alan Carr. I mean, Alan Carr is my favorite UK presenter, full stop. Like, he's just hilarious. But Graham Norton is a close second. So shout out to them. And it's so funny, and I hate to do this plug, but I'm going to. This discussion we've just had is also discussed in Chapter 7, Secrets and Lies, of my forthcoming book, Wild Dances, link in bio. But it was my first Eurovision that I was watching in 2007, and Terry Wogan was you know, he was presenting or commentating, and I was just sitting there in shock and awe and like taking notes, which is why I have it available for chapter 7 of my book, Wild Dances. All right. And of course, we should point out, Lucy, that Graham has hosted other big Eurovision events. Do you remember any of them?
Yeah, so the Eurovision's Greatest Hits concert in 2015, he hosted with Pietro Mead, and he made jokes on the night. Like, there was a gag that he'll never get to present Eurovision because Petra had just been announced as 2016's host, or I think, and there was this whole running joke about the show that Graham was never going to host Eurovision. So I just remembered that actually it's come true. He was very good at that. Like, despite the fact I've said whatever I've said about him, he was very good at that. So maybe not in a commentary role and being more with like out front and being main representation, he won't be like that. I think he was really good, and like at the time there were people being quite rude in the audience to one of the artists, and he stopped it there and then, like and like was very good at getting people to respect the artists that were coming on stage and stuff like that. So he has got, like, in terms of that experience, it was really good. So, and I mean, like we say, he does love Eurovision, so maybe it's going to be, it's I think, yeah.
And Oliver, I think you remember another event, if I'm not mistaken.
The ill-fated Eurovision Dance Contest 2007. And then did they also host it in 2008? I mean, you know, it was a bad time in history. We don't like to look back upon it. One of the many cancelled Eurovision spin-offs. Good luck, America. But he's done it. You know what I mean? He does have that experience. And actually, Eurovision Greatest Hits was the first Eurovision event that I ever went to. And I remember that. I remember that incident. And yeah, he really handled the crowd well, and I think he had decent chemistry. I think he had decent chemistry with Petra, and you know, she's an incredible comedian. She's an incredible host. Everybody loves her. I think if she hosted Eurovision every single year, people would probably be quite happy with that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how it works. I imagine that he won't have as much interactivity with the other hosts, because I do think he'll probably come on at the start, then he'll run off to his commentary booth for the first 12 songs, then do a little bit in the middle. You know, he'll be between posts. So yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see how it works.
Hearing y'all talk, a few things spring to mind. One is, you mentioned how besides Graham, the other 3 hosts are all very musical. So perhaps we're going to have a Laura Pausini moment where the hosts get their interval, where they do, I don't know, a duet, a trio of some kind. It'd be an interesting mix, you know, hard kiss rocker Julia with sort of Alesha Dixon, and then Hannah Waddingham doing a musical theater. Don't know how that's going to work out. And I want to read
for those that don't know, Alesha she's an MC artist, isn't she, Alesha? So like going from that, like you say, with the hard kiss, it's great.
Yeah, who knows what will happen, but I do know that Hannah Waddingham is a badass. This is a tweet from the grand final of Eurovision 2018 after that stage invader attacked our beloved Suri. Hannah tweeted, "You pathetic, appalling, embarrassing mess of a human being, whoever you are. Didn't stop Suri Official, did you? Nope. Congratulations to Suri Official for cracking on and royally saying fuck you with her voice. Bore off, you stupid man. Hashtag Eurovision." That is Hannah Waddingham.
Like,
so
there's
yes,
some really good memes on Twitter today from that.
Incredible.
I want to add on Hannah Waddingham. This is such a niche poll, but in 2021 she played a character called Mimi Dagmar on Midsummer Murders, and she was the murderer. And she was so unbelievably fierce, and I'm just obsessed with the name Mimi Dagmar. And yeah, just another point to add to her endless stream of accolades that we've given her in this video.
Well, from accolades to a bit of shade, I think today's announcement, like, it was a bit weird because they had all 9 people involved in any capacity of commentary, you know, from the red carpet with Sam Quek and Timur to the semifinals, you know, commentary with Scott Mills and Rylan to the host. It was just a lot to take in. And Yeah, I feel like if they had just announced the main host first, we could all digest and breathe. It's a lot. I'm looking at this wave collage right now, and I'm just like, that's a lot of people. Do you have thoughts?
I mean, I have ADHD, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, ah! Like literally, I had to sit there and I had to break it down because that's how my brain works. I literally couldn't. It was very much can't see the wood for the trees. The second that came out, and I was like, right, so that's that, and work it out. I feel that says a lot.
Similarly, I looked at that graphic and thought, nope. Like I'm just going to process that later. I'm going to read about the host because we've kind of been expecting this announcement for some days now, and I was just expecting the Graham announcement and the main host. With the Daily Star reporting Alesha, we knew that she was on the radar, so we were kind of getting ready for that, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, here's your coverage team for the week, which is such a strange thing to have. They'll do that for the Olympics and it'll be like 4 people and they'll announce it maybe a month before the show. But it's a little bit overkill, I think, to announce it all at once. But maybe they're just getting this out of the way because there's other things to come. We still not have ticket information. Usually the first wave of tickets has gone on sale by this point. It's usually around November, December. There's also the UK Act to announce. Maybe they're just getting this one out of the way because there's some other exciting things in the pipeline. Maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but the BBC has a lot of Eurovision content to get through this year, and maybe this one wasn't one of their priorities.
I was just like, are they giving everybody a chance? It was like everybody gets their 5 minutes of fame. I think you need
everybody
to
except AJ.
Yeah, AJ Adudu. Oh my God, Alison Hammond. There's so many people who I'm like, why aren't they here? I effing love Alison Hammond. She's hilarious.
I love her so much.
She would have
She's
killed the
a
green
icon.
room. Oh, but in any case, you can't have everything. Now, finally, I really want us to address this Ukraine issue because there have been a lot of comments on our website, on social media, saying that in this sea of 9, the 2 Ukrainians get kind of lost. Of course, the United Kingdom is hosting on behalf of Ukraine, and a lot of people wanted to see more Ukrainian representation. I think Julia is great. She is, of course, an icon in Ukraine. So Ukrainians, I've noticed, are very happy that it's her. Timur, of course, people expected him to host. We all expected him to have one of the primary gigs. And I feel like he's been given a consolation prize with the opening ceremony and these sort of call outs during the show. At the same time, in Ukraine, he is the commentator. He famously commentated from the bomb shelter last year. So perhaps it will be a source of comfort for Ukrainians to have him in that role still. So I do understand that that could have been part of the motivation. We don't know the behind the scenes discussion. What are your thoughts about the Ukrainian representation in the hosting lineup and this auxiliary hosting lineup, Lucy?
So it is a difficult one because obviously I'm British. My instinct is to say, oh, but we're hosting it. But at the end of the day, we're hosting it because of something terrible that's happened in Ukraine. And there should be, out of the 9, there should definitely be at least 3, I mean, preferably 4 Ukrainians. And Timur, I mean, we don't know what his little call outs, as you call it, kind of in the final are going to be like. I think they probably will touch on the fact that he had to commentate from the bomb shelter last year, and this year he's in the UK. And I think that maybe there's got to be a moment with him about that, surely. I hope it's like, this is such a weird comparison, but how often we saw Sarah Dawn Finer in 2016, is it 2013, as Linda Woodruff? Like, we saw her a lot. I hope we see Timur a lot, albeit not as Linda Woodruff, but I hope we get to see him be a major part of it. I do think it is it's difficult because there should be more Ukrainian representation. I think so far, the one thing I will say is the BBC have done a stunning job of making this a co-partnership with Ukraine. I think until now, this is the first criticism of it, I think. Like at the allocation draw, they had half British, half Ukrainian children pulling out. Was it the Big Five, which semi-final vote in?
Yeah.
They had Ukrainians living in the UK involved in that. Like, there's been little bits here and there, and it's been done so well up until now. It's not terrible because, I mean, thank God we have a Ukrainian host, but I do think it should have been 2 and 2. It should have been 2 Ukrainians and 2, obviously, Graham's Irish, but, you know, Graham and another Brit, but not that he's Brit, you know what I mean? And then 2 Ukrainians, because that is 50-50 then. That is what this is meant to be. I just hope Timur has the respect that he deserves for what he went through last year and the country is still going through now in the hosting.
I have a feeling because they talk about VT inserts, Timur will be in videotape inserts during the live shows, plus giving live insights. So I suspect he will be filmed in Ukraine, before the show, showing us what's happening, perhaps showing us what the past year has been like, and showing us, the horror that could continue if we don't support Ukraine. So in many ways, maybe it is a very effective way to utilize him, having him doing hosting duties taped from Ukraine in a way. Oliver.
Yeah, I think I'll play devil's advocate once again here. Much of the commentary around this so far has been that the UK is hosting on behalf of Ukraine. And the word hosting, you've got UK hosts presenting a Ukrainian show. I think ultimately in all of this conversation, we can, there's so much discourse around who the hosts are, who they should have been, who people want to see, so on and so forth. The hosts aren't the most important part of the show. The thing that makes Eurovision is the fans and the artists and the songs and the country's representation. And I think that the hosts being mostly British, although I personally would have liked to see more Ukrainian representation, absolutely, I think that it almost lends itself to this idea of we're the UK and we are showcasing Ukraine because they can't do it themselves right now. It's almost a show of solidarity rather than a show of segregation. So yeah, I'm not too fussed about it, even though I would echo those calls that I'd like to see more Ukrainian representation, because I think that we will get that representation throughout the shows themselves. I think the interval acts will be distinctly Ukrainian. I don't think we're going to have a bunch of people waving, UK flags and singing along to Sam Ryder. While I expect there to be some involvement there, it's going to be about Kalush Orchestra. It's going to be about, other Ukrainian acts that maybe have represented. Maybe they'll pop up in the final. Who knows? There's a lot more from the Ukrainian aspect of this, and we don't need to see the hosts as the be all end all with that representation.
Absolutely.
I mean, with the representation, even with the representation, even like from the New Year. On the New Year celebrations, they lit up the London Eye blue and yellow, and they played Stefania across the centre of London and Kalush's acceptance speech. So, like you say, Oliver, like Kalush are going to be so involved in this. They are not. They are going to celebrate Ukraine.
And I really hope that some of the tickets, there was a movement by a charity that said some of the tickets should be reserved for British families who have hosted Ukrainian refugees during the war. Let them celebrate together at Eurovision. I think that'd be so beautiful in some capacity. It's just very touching. Let's wrap this up. I just want to talk about Liverpudlian representation away from the host. It's a totally separate issue. I think the intervals have to include acts from Liverpool in some way, shape, or form at some point. I'm going to put it out there. Give me Rebecca Ferguson as an interval. Yes, give me Rebecca Ferguson as an interval. Give me Sonia, better the devil you know, at some point. Oliver, who else would you like to see?
Claire Sweeney. an ode to Cilla Black. Natasha Hamilton. I think there's lots of fun things that they could do to see it as a co-host between Ukraine and the UK. And a big part of the Liverpudlian bid was that Liverpool is twinned with Odessa. So I can imagine seeing it in a postcards like, here's a Liverpudlian person, here's a Ukrainian person. I think it has to showcase that in some way, because it will it will echo the sisterhood of those cities. I will say, separately from the BBC main coverage, I don't know if this is a case around the country with local radio. Claire Sweeney is providing coverage for BBC Radio Merseyside, and she will commentate on the shows for BBC Radio Merseyside in May. And there are a lot of local initiatives to show that Scouse representation. Perhaps some of it is accent based. We were talking about AJ Odudu's accent earlier. She does have a thick northern accent. Do we think that people who are used to hearing Londoner RP receive pronunciation or a southern accent, are they going to understand Chelsea Grimes' really thick Scouse accent? I don't know.
Listen,
go on.
We have people with Italian accents, Israeli accents, Portuguese accents presenting. So and I accept your point. I do think that's part of the logic. I think it's unfair to then say, but you have an English accent to a foreigner, frankly. If you're from Liverpool or if you're from Glasgow, you have a British accent. Sorry. I don't know. I just feel like you shouldn't discriminate based on regional accents. I really don't.
No. Yeah, and I completely agree. I can just see that kind of logic in them making the decision on who the presenter was, for the sake of that international audience. But yeah, I think we have to remember that the show is, while it's in Liverpool, it is still a BBC production. So maybe they're not thinking as much about the local environment, the local the Liverpool economy, the Liverpool culture, because that's on the city council, that's on the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority to bring to the show and to make those things happen in and around Liverpool throughout April and May. I feel frustrated as well, because I would have liked to see it, but ultimately I'm still like, it's happening down the road from me, so I don't care. Anybody who's anything happening at the Eurovision, I'd be happy with it, because I don't have to spend thousands of pounds on a hotel because it's right down the road from me. So that's my 2 cents.
Don't make me jealous. Yeah,
All
no,
right.
I think it's a shame, because like there are so many accents in the UK. You could do like a 2-hour drive from Liverpool up to like Leeds or whatever and beyond, and you can come across like 5 different accents. But I mean, if it's like a really thick accent, sure, but like if you can have somebody who is at least Scouse with an accent, there's plenty of Scouse people. It's not a worry. I mean, Oliver Adams could have hosted.
I understand every word you say.
But like, it is a shame, but never mind, it's what it is. But hopefully, like you said, there's going to be lots of extra bits and pieces here and there.
All right, well, let's wrap this up with our final thoughts. I'll just say, even if I have reservations with some of these hosting decisions, I think the team they've chosen are going to be incredible. I just hope they have chemistry. One of the reasons I was excited about a potential Rylan, AJ, Odudu lineup was that they have great chemistry. They just work together. Whereas they'll have done screen tests, I'm sure, but it's a bit of uncharted territory in a way, but I'm sure it'll be fab. And overall, I am super excited with the branding, the logo, the slogan. I think everything's coming together. Liverpool's going to be amazing. And I'm very excited about what Wiwibloggs has planned and which will be revealed in the coming weeks. Well, that's what we think. What do you think? Are you excited by the lineup of hosts? Did the BBC make the right decisions? Are you loving the 2 Ukrainians? Should there be more? Let us know here on Wiwibloggs.
Subscribe to Wiwibloggs on YouTube for Eurovision news and reviews, and you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, and all of the rest. Follow us at Wiwibloggs.
And we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.